The Tie and Hoodie Show is sponsored by ICCLending.com. For real estate service, please go to ICCLending.com.
3, 2, 1.
Every human came to earth with a gift, and they must discover that gift and refine that gift for them to be fulfilled.
The prerequisite for spending time with any person is that they nourish and inspire you. They feed your flame.
Yo, hey man, how you work this radio?
You're not listening to the Tie and Hoodie Show.
Keep it locked.
Owning a home and paying it off is one of the data points of an everyday millionaire.
Home sales across the U.S. are on the rise as buyers take advantage of record low mortgage rates.
Good morning. Now let's get back to the Tie and Hoodie Show.
Good morning. It's the Tie and Hoodie Show right here on 93.5 K-Day. Every Sunday morning, 6:30 to 7 a.m. I'm your host, Trevon Smith, also known as Trey.
I'm Andrew Jesse Cover, co-host.
The co-host, and as you know, all shows are sponsored by ICC Lending, where it's the home of all the great mortgage loans, from VA loans to conventional loans to FHA loans. So if you're looking for a loan for a home or a business, please contact ICC Lending, as well as all this information from the show will be on the tieandhoodieshow.com. If you missed any valuable information or any upcoming information, and we have our new YouTube exclusives on there. But today we get to reach out, and she's our first female guest, right?
Yeah, your first female guest. Welcome to the show.
Ladies first. A lot of people don't know that's Queen Latifah. But our guest has a brilliant, background. She's done some amazing things. She has her own testimony, her own personal development story. So hopefully we'll get into a little bit of that and talk to her about what she's been through, just as a person. And I also like to hear the woman's perspective of the business place, what women go through, because I've worked in radio, and women go through certain things as far as conducting themselves. Like some give the quick hand up, some give the, so it's things that I've watched, and I was like, okay, that was smooth.
Well, first of all, let's introduce her. So you're Miss Cassidy Szarnicki, right?
Szarnicki. Cassidy.
Szarnicki, yeah, see?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how do you put it? It sounds like you made that up.
No, I mean the S is silent.
Yeah, so like Szarnicki.
Szarnicki.
Okay.
So the S is silent, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so Cassidy Szarnicki. Well, thank you so much. Welcome to our show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday to you. Well, just kind of tell our viewers and our listeners who you are, what you do for a living.
Yeah, so Cassidy Jordan Szarnicki. I'm originally from San Francisco, California. Came to UCLA on a full scholarship for rowing. Was rowing there, political science major, also Chinese as well. I speak Mandarin Chinese fluently. And then over some time period, obviously I've done a lot of things that I'm sure we'll get into, but currently I'm the CEO at Artest Management Group, which is founded by Meta World Peace, who's also my business partner in our new venture fund that we just launched a couple months ago called 837 Ventures. So I'm also the founding managing partner there.
That's already a lot of information right there for everybody listening. Let's talk a little bit about your process. You know how everybody says, follow my process or trust the process. Number one, you mentioned rowing.
Yes.
Number two, Chinese, speaking Chinese. I want to hear Mandarin Chinese. I want to hear a little bit of how you as far as your voyage to UCLA and rowing, which came before UCLA, and as well as you speak in Chinese, because I believe we spoke to somebody last week and they were fluent in Japanese. So we're seeing a lot of minorities in these different cultures speaking different language, because we all, high school, they say, French or Spanish. So it's a lot more people speaking different languages now. So, and look, I'm all ears. We want to hear, let's hear it.
Yeah, I mean, I actually didn't start rowing until I was a junior in high school. Around springtime. And, I grew up being a super active child. I was the athlete of my family. And so year round, I was in different types of sports. I did dance, I did gymnastics, I did basketball. That's my true love, actually. Softball, swimming, I've done everything. And so for me, you know, my parents really wanted to kind of challenge me and push me into something different. And so rowing, you know, it had major opportunity to get scholarships to schools, especially Ivy League schools. So, you know, I got into rowing, hated it at first because it's the one sport that I've ever done where I've actually felt like this is the hardest sport I've ever done. Like it's challenged me in every way, mentally, physically. And I can honestly say it's the most grueling sport I've ever done. And so, you know, from that, my junior year, I placed 5th in the nation in high school. My senior year, I placed 2nd in the nation. So I had a lot of potential with rowing. First school that reached out to me was actually Yale, trying to recruit me. And so that's when it really opened my eyes where I was like, wow, like I could go further with this sport than anything else that I was kind of, you know, thinking about doing in any other schools. So for me, you know, went on those recruiting trips, you know, looked at a bunch of different schools, ultimately decided on UCLA because I am from San Francisco. So I wanted something that was further enough away from home, but like a short flight back home if I wanted to do that too. So it was a perfect opportunity for me. And then as far as, you know, Mandarin Chinese, I've been learning Mandarin since I was 2 years old. Yeah, so Spanish as well. And my mom's always been, you know, a huge fan of culture and language. And so she wanted to, you know, equip us, me and my other siblings with, you know, some additional benefits, right? Like growing up, exposure, opportunities. And so, you know, for her, it was almost like she was so business oriented that she knew 10, 15, 20 years from now that it would be, you know, a hot commodity. I know a lot of other minorities. And even when I was at UCLA, I would see other, you know, people of color in my Chinese classrooms. And that was just never what I experienced. I was the only person of color, the only Black woman in all my Chinese classes growing up. So it's definitely now becoming a hot commodity. You're seeing it a lot now. I know a lot of other minorities who speak Mandarin or speak Arabic in these really foreign languages. So that's nice to see. But yeah, you know, my experience at UCLA, it was great, great school. I did have a career-ending injury, and that, you know, that really shifted my trajectory overall and my career, my mindset and perspective. And, you know, that was hard, you know, growing up being an athlete and then suddenly you'll never play sports again. You'll never play in that specific sport. It was a lot to go through. But I think it really set me up to really choose the best path for me, right? And I would say it was that turning point in my life that has set me up to be where I am today.
Now, on this, on the Time Hoodie Show, we're real big fans of personal development, and I hear a lot of that in you. And I think it's important, and that's one of the things that I feel proud about by being on the show is bringing that to our listeners. Do you think all the things that, like, you know, the sport activities and your mom being influential about learning languages, did the personal development help overcoming, and I don't know, you tell me if I'm absolutely wrong, overcoming the injury as far as like your bounce back? Because I know a lot of athletes, once they get an injury, like, oh man, what am I gonna do now? Yeah. So it's like, it seems like you already had a lot on your shoulders before, so you already kind of had it developing in you, and you can go ahead and talk a little further about that. I don't know if that helped out. And
yeah, I mean, I would say in some ways, yes. You know, for me, and I'm going to be totally honest, I went through like a whole year where I was just down and out, like depressed, anxiety, stressed, panic attacks, like the whole thing, because so much of my identity was part of being an athlete, right? And for me, I had to really figure out how I was going to come out of that, what I wanted to do next. It was just something I never really had to think about, you know, because I was still in college. I was a junior when this happened. Oh, okay. So I really had to figure out, okay, like, what do I want my life to be? You know, what do I want my career to be? What do I want my purpose to be outside of being an athlete? And so, you know, going through that, it was challenging at first, for sure. You know, I had surgery, everything. So it wasn't even just that, you know, my athletic career ended. I was trying to get back to daily life. It took months before I could even get in the gym again, just walking, right? So, and running. So there was a lot of things that I was battling. I think, you know, growing up being an athlete, and of course, you know, the experiences that and the opportunities that my mother has presented to me, has really molded me and shaped me into having a very resilient mindset, and, you know, being ambitious, and very driven. And so I like to be challenged. So for me, you know, it was a huge challenge, but it was one that I knew that I could overcome at some point in time. And so, you know, it was just about continuously working on myself so that I would continuously improve, and then obviously change my situation.
You are giving a lot more than a lot of people can really understand. And, you know, I personally relate 100%, and I'll tell you why. I was fortunate enough to come to the United States over 20 years ago on a track scholarship. And in my freshman year, I tore my quadricep muscle. I came to the US to go to school, run track. I wasn't interested in education. I was interested in becoming an Olympian. I wanted to go to the Olympics. I was so crazy about sports that was my identity. Everything, think, sleep, drip, sports. And in my freshman year, when I got hurt, and the doctor said, you're never gonna be 100% again. I mean, I was, just like you, I was crushed. I thought about going back to Nigeria and just going back and not, I wasn't interested in doing anything anymore. You know, so talking about, you know, getting down and under where what you thought was gonna be a gateway, a pathway for your life, and it just seemed like it was taken away from you.
Right.
You know, and now you see people doing the same thing that you thought you could do better at.
Right.
And there's a mixture of jealousy / resentment, you know. So I totally relate with your story. And I think a lot of people, like Trevon was saying, athletes who thought they were going to go to the NBA or the NFL or become pro, and they get injured and they're like, well, my life is over. That shouldn't be the case.
Right.
I mean, what do you think?
No, it shouldn't be at all. You know, I always say, and I look back on it now, right? And I have a change in perspective because I'm so stubborn by nature, and especially, you know, being an athlete, I'm super competitive, super tunnel vision. So when I have my eye, you know, on a goal, it's like, I'll get to that goal no matter what, right? Like I'm an executor like that. So for me, in hindsight, when I've looked at it from different perspectives, it was like that almost needed to happen to me in order for me to look at something else that I could do in my life. Like I always think about, I was probably destined for a higher purpose than just, you know, let's say go to the Olympics, right? Or make that a career, being an athlete. So for me, you know, I look back and I'm like, I learned so much over that period that I was down and out about myself, about, you know, other ways and really my potential. Right now I'm in venture capital. I never thought I would be in venture capital.
Yeah. And that's huge. Venture capital is, I mean, it's a lot of work. It's this is I mean, to the next level. You know, I mean, you're now in a situation where not only are you managing money, you're managing opportunities and you're managing possibilities on the highest level. And who thought that a downward spiral of what happened to you could lead to this opportunity?
Right.
You know?
I think it's very important because I'm fortunate enough to know enough NFL athletes that some of them had game plans and some of them didn't have game plans. And you kind of sit back and take notes as far as like, sometimes there needs to be a backup plan, you know, and it's all right to have a backup plan, even though plan A is on full throttle. So it's definitely something we need to like inform our listeners and other people about, like, hey, you can go full throttle in a certain direction, but make sure you have avenues that kind of lead to the same direction, which is progression, you know, at the end of the day. I want to just jump in and talk a little bit about where you going from college. I know you did worked in some government. And I think that's important for listener, because a lot, like I always tell kids, I do some substitute teaching, and it was like, oh, well, we don't like the police or whatever. I said, the best thing you could do is join the police and be informative and help them out. So like I want you to talk a little bit about, from the listeners, about being in government and being involved in the government. You don't have to give any specifications, just working with the government, and then you're transitioning to what you do now as far as business and capital.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, you know, like I said, I was a political science major in college. You at that point, kind of after the injury happened, it was like, okay, I'm going to go to law school. Like that was, my path. And so I started getting involved in a lot of community service work. I would tutor kids who were incarcerated in juvenile detention centers, which is one of my most rewarding experiences ever. I joined like Justice Corps. I just started working with Congress officials in the city. And then afterwards, right out of college, actually, I got an internship with a congressman here in LA County. And then shortly after that, I got accepted to work with Senator Harris, our now VP elect, right? So working with her, and that was during the time of the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, and there was a lot going on. I would say that was really like my first introduction into politics and government, and seeing how no day is the same, no second is the same. You have to be ready at, the flip of a dime. And so, during the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, like I said, there was a lot going on in the office, a lot going on over the world, in the country. And then shortly after that, she announced she was going to be running for president. So, I started to get more involved from that aspect, again, in my community. Also worked on Mike Bloomberg's presidential campaign for the short run that was. But yeah, I mean, I have a lot of friends who will hit me up and be like, they don't even know anything about, voting outside of voting for the president, right? They don't know that you're voting for your district attorney,
exactly,
or, the Board of Education, like nothing. And so I always tell people, get involved, go to town halls, know who your district Congress official is, right? And just get involved and become aware, because then from there, you're going to understand why politics is the way it is, right? Why government is the way it is. But yeah, from there, made the transition after I decided I wasn't going to go to law school anymore. I actually initially was going to get my JD and MBA, applied, did everything. But at the time I started working for a family office fund, completely fell in love with it. I loved everything about, entrepreneurship, but also the investment side. Decided to also start my own startup at one point in time. And, I was doing a lot because, as to your point, Trevon, like you had to have a backup plan, right? And everything had to be aligned. And so for me, it wasn't so much having a backup plan, but there was a lot that I wanted to do. I was passionate about politics, but I was passionate about venture capital. And I also wanted to be my own CEO, right? I wanted to start my own company. And so, just everything started to really align for me when I made the risk that I wasn't going to go to law school anymore, which was a huge risk. My parents didn't understand that. But it felt like intuitively I could do more than just lawyer. And that's, no disrespect to lawyers because they're amazing, but it was just like, I felt like my purpose was bigger than that. So 9 months later, ended up meeting Meta World Peace, changed my life, right? Like we met, we started working together. And then, soon after that, he pretty much brought me onto the team and was like, I want to make you CEO. Like you have the vision, you have the execution, you have the strategy. We're so aligned. And since then, things have just been skyrocketing for us. We have a lot of momentum. We're raising $100 million fund right now for our venture capital fund. We're making investments. We have a sports tech platform called X Sports, which is Meta's startup as well. And yeah, just, a ton of things that are going in the right direction. And like, I would say the last 6 months have been life-changing for me. And
I think that's very, very important for people to hear that whole testimony, because it doesn't always, everybody thinks, oh, it's either about the rap life or the sports life. And it's like, there's other avenues to the world of success. So that's one of the things we try to do, is just bring those eyes and like, hey, it's other people out there that's successful. You don't have to be just like hit 7 or nothing and it's all over. I definitely want you to go ahead and give the information out to the people where they can learn about all these different programs that you're doing with Meta World Peace. I wanted to talk a little bit, since you're our first, I want to talk a little bit about the woman in the workplace. You're our first female guest. And I've seen a whole lot of different situations and all positive. I've met a lot of people that done positive things, that they were interns and now they're doing this and that. I noticed it's more difficult, in my opinion, for a lot of women in the workplace because they deal with so many different hats and dealing with so many different situations. If you want to talk a little bit about, because I think it's a lot of, well, I know it's a lot of women listening because we get emails and DMs and they always ask us, I'm like, hey, well, we don't know how to answer that because you're a woman in the workplace. For somebody like you, just to talk that's been being successful, talk about a woman's might have to try 2 or 3 times or do certain things just because you're a woman, if you don't mind touching on that a little bit for us.
Yeah, I would actually say it's not so much a challenge as being a woman as it is like ageism, right? Because I'm 25. So for me, like I'm doing what 30, 35, 40-year-olds are doing right now. And I get that a lot. I've had other venture capital partners and investors reach out to me who will tell me that. Like I'm in a very, I'm in a position rather that, like I said, most 40-year-olds, 45, 50-year-olds are at by this time. So I would say it, as far as being a woman, I mean, it's not so much I felt like I've had to try harder, but you definitely have to put yourself out there more than, the male counterparts in your workplace. And I think that's what my piece of advice would be is, just find those opportunities, constantly ask for them. What else can I do? Right. And then just do it to the best of your ability. I think at that point, you'll prove yourself in the workplace. Now I know there's other avenues that we can get into in that. So I don't really want to go into that, but I mean, like I said, my piece of advice around, excelling in the workplace as a woman is just, coming in, doing your best every day and doing a little bit more than the person next to you, right? And your male counterparts. And I think for me, that's how I've gotten noticed, is, I show up, I ask what else I can do, and then I execute that. And then from there, my bosses and my supervisors have just tasked me with more work, right? And more opportunities.
So let me jump in here real quick. I think you've given so much nuggets right now that, first of all, you're young, you're under 30, you're in a position to actually manage over $100 million fund. People don't understand sometimes this kind of conversation, and they're thinking, oh, well, it just got handed to you. That's not what's happening here. No. It took, what I always tell Travon is, what's changed my life the most in America, coming from Nigeria, being an immigrant, coming here, is education, education, education. There's no way, I don't care who you are, there's no way somebody's gonna hand you $1 million and say, hey, go run this fund for me. You have to know what you're doing. So can you really talk to how education and being inquisitive about stuff and learning, how has that propelled you to this point?
Yeah, I mean, I'm huge on self-development, right? So for example, over quarantine, like in the very beginning, I learned how to code Python. Like I'm somebody who naturally just every day I want to be better than the day before. And so whatever I have to do that, that's what I do. So sometimes I'll read, right? Or I'll listen to podcasts on certain topics that I don't know that much about. I'll watch YouTube videos, I'll take a course. I'm always looking to improve myself so that, I can continue to grow and evolve. So for me, in venture capital specifically, I've only been in venture capital a little over 2 years. And I'm now a managing partner of a venture fund. Like you said, people might think that got handed to me. But I think also it's been my ability to seize opportunities and get in those right rooms and also know how to talk the language. That's half of it, is being able to keep up with conversation with the people that you're networking with, right? So for me, I've been able to find a lot of mentors that way who, will look at my background, of course, but I would say more so just in conversation with me. Oh, she's smart, right? She's intelligent, she can keep up, she has potential. And from there, I've been able to find a lot of mentors who are billionaires, right? Who have Fortune 100 companies, who I never thought, again, that I would be in rooms with. So I think a lot of it is you have to be hungry enough to want to evolve. You have to want that for yourself. first and foremost. And then you just, whatever interests you, whatever you want to learn more about, if you want to connect with somebody, we have a tool like LinkedIn now, right? I get so many LinkedIn connections, just people just want to have conversations with me so that, they can take something from that conversation and evolve that way, right? Grow that way. So yeah, I mean, I read books, I listened to podcasts. I didn't go into any summits or anything like that, but when there was an opportunity for me to network with people who were influential, I made sure to study the room, right? I knew who was going to be there. I knew, what I was going to say in conversations. And I hope at the end of that conversation, they would want to have another conversation, and usually they did.
So is there any way that if somebody wanted to get in contact with you or be involved in your fund or any opportunities, do you have a website or phone number, or what information would you want to give out?
Any information we can help. I mean, I know we talked about a couple programs that you guys are working on. Any of that information to share with the listeners, as far as if there are some people that, if they fit the circumstance, they could help out or be a part of?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we have a lot going on. Like Artest Management Group, it's a management company. It's the parent company to a lot of other entities that we do have. But it's artestmanagementgroup.com. That's where you'll be able to find everything. And then X vs. X Sports. I mean, if you're a basketball enthusiast, basketball player, out there listening, we do have a platform for that. You can find them on Instagram. We have a lot of influencers and NBA players that are a part of our platform. They're always at these open games and runs. And then we also have, our accelerator, which operates under our venture fund for early stage startups that we essentially grow from a phase 1 to phase 10. So there's a lot of opportunities to get involved. We also do philanthropy. We're currently working with the mayor of Compton, Asia Brown, on an initiative.
Asia Brown, good friend of mine, Asia Brown.
Yeah, so we're working with her on Compton Pledge. So yeah, we're always looking for people to get involved with us in whatever way. If you bring value, we're definitely interested in talking with you.
So now one more thing, because our show again is about personal development, and a lot of people who are listening now thinking, okay, how do I go from sitting on my couch, I'm depressed, I'm tired, COVID just took me out of everything that I've been planning or dreaming of. Well, can you encourage somebody?
I would say trust your journey, right? You're learning something from this period in time. And I say that as somebody who's been down and out, who's gone through a lot of different pivots in my life where, I've had to take a step back. And so I would say not every step back is a setback. I really firmly believe that. Sometimes you need to be still in that moment, and you maybe, during this period, you need to rest, right? Maybe this is a blessing in disguise for you so that you're prepared for whatever opportunity is coming next, right? For you to grow, for you to develop yourself during this time. Like I said, we've had months, and not that everybody needs to have done something in quarantine, but like for me, I just learned how to code Python. Like it was just something where, I had so much time on my hands being in the house. Like I just wanted to do something. So I would take that, whatever it is for you. If that's resting, if that's now getting into a workout routine at home, like whatever it is to develop yourself, you're preparing yourself for that next step, because nothing lasts forever. Happiness doesn't last forever. A bad time doesn't last forever. So, hold on to that, right? Like this is just a period in time that you're going through. Weather the storm, figure out, ways that make you happy day in, day out, ways that you can develop yourself. And then when the next opportunity comes, because it will, you're ready for that opportunity. And now you're on to the next chapter in your life.
Look, Ms. Cassidy, we definitely want to thank you for coming and joining us and blessing us with, like I said, every Sunday, I feel like I'm going through a counseling session. I learn something every Sunday. So it's always a pleasure, but it's even more of a pleasure to bring this to our K-Day listeners. If you missed any of this information or the valuableness of shows that you might have missed in the past, please go to tieandhoodieshow.com. Ms. Cassidy, we super appreciate you coming on, take the time out your day. And we definitely going to have you back next year sometime and get an update of everything that's going on.
Yeah, because I still want to have a second show and talk about, you learning Mandarin, and because you know, just the past week we had a gentleman, an African American, he learned Japanese
too.
And I'm thinking, well, you know, we need to start exposing, you know, our community to opportunities that for sure they're good, because the world is getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna need it at some point, whether you like it or not. You know, it's not just learning Spanish only that will get you over the hump. You know, the world is, you know, melting.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like I said, we definitely appreciate your time, and we'll stay in contact. And K-Day listeners, we appreciate your time. We'll see y'all next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Ms. Cassidy.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, do you have valuable information that can help your community?
Okay.
And you'd like to be a guest? Hit us on our social media.
Do it now.
The Tie and Hoodie Show is sponsored by ICCLending.com. For real estate service, please go to ICCLending.com.